In this video, I'll show you how to use your TI-83 or 85 calculator to do some basic time value or money calculations. So this is a calculator guide. On this side of the screen, you see this is a note file which includes all the examples I'm going to use to demonstrate how to use this calculator. And this is a picture of your big screen calculator. This I think applies to 83, 85, 89, all those big screen calculators. So let's get started. First, turn it on, and you want to press the apps button and find the finance app. If your calculator has this finance app, that would work. So the first function is called the TVM, time value or money solver. Let's try that one. And we can use this solver to find values of future value or present value or interest or number of years. So the first example, if we want to find the future value when the present value is 100, 20 years, 5 interest rate. So 20 years, go down, 5% interest rate. Remember, only 5. You only need to input 5, not 5%. 100 present value, and leave payment as 0, and we go down to future value and press this green button that says alpha and solve. So you get the result $265 future value. Now, if you want to change n to 40, that's easy. Just change it to 40. All the other variables remain constant. Go down to FV, trying to find that result for future value again. Alpha, solve. So far we got the future value. If we want to calculate the present value, in this case, 2 years, 5% interest rate, and the future value we input $100. Now we go back to the present value and solve for it. $90.70 present value for $100 in 2 years if the interest rate, or say the discount rate, is 5%. Now let's see, if we want to solve for the interest rate, if we know the present value and future value. So we go input the present value, 350. We actually need to input a negative number for the present value if we want to leave the future value as positive. Remember, between the two numbers, one positive, one negative. Okay, and now we go try to solve for the interest rate. So again, alpha, solve. Oh, actually 3 years for n. My emulator is not working perfectly. Let's see, alpha, solve. 10%, about 10.71% interest rate. Another example would be to solve for the time. So if the interest rate is given as 7%, and we have 350 present value, 500 future value, and how many years do we need? We alpha solve for the time, number of years. Okay, so far this is the present value, future value, or interest rate, or n calculation for a single cash flow when there is one cash flow involved. And in chapter 5 we talked about annuities. So for annuity, ordinary annuity calculation, this is how we're gonna do it. 3 years annuity, interest rate is 10%, and the present value is 0, which is actually the amount of cash flow at the beginning of this annuity, which is nothing, 0. and this annuity has a payment of $100, so we can put a negative 100. And of course, if you put positive 100, that's fine. You just get a negative number for the future value. Okay, remember alpha solved for the future value 331. And guess what are you going to do for the present value? To calculate the present value, we just leave the future value as 0 and go back to the present value alpha solve 248.69. What if we have annuity due? For you guys that have 83 calculator, it's actually pretty simple. We just switch from the end, from the bottom of your screen to begin, press enter. Now the begin button is linking, and we go back to 0 present value to calculate future value alpha solve 364. Remember, when you were at the end mode, you had a result of 331, and now at the beginning mode, your future value is 364, which is 10% more of the 331. What if we want to find the present value? Well, we'll just change this to 0 and go back to the present value alpha solve. So far, pretty simple. Now, this is to use all these 5 buttons, or 4 of the 5 buttons, to solve for the missing variable. And now remember, we also talk about the uneven cash flows. How do we get the present value of this series or string of uneven cash flows? For you guys, you will actually use the MPV function. So to find that MPV function, you want to go second quit, go back to the apps, finance functions. Now instead of going to the TVM solver, let's just go down to find the MPV function, and we can start inputting. 10 is for the 10% interest rate, and you want it separate by comma. 0, that is 0 cash flow at the very beginning, again comma, and open the bracket. This is second bracket, and $100. Remember, separate them by comma. 300. You can also put the other 300, and the last one is the negative 50, and we want to close this and also close the parentheses and press the enter button. We got 530. In the note, I also gave you different ways of solving for the same question. You notice here we list all the cash flows involved, and since each of them appear by itself once, we can actually skip those 1, 1, 1, 1 here. Okay, so the 1 and 1, these are telling the calculator how many 100 do we have, how many 300 do we have. Again, since we are listing them one by one, we can actually skip all this. Another way to do it, since we have 2 of the 300 right next to each other, we can count this 300 twice. Okay, that's why we're using a number 2 for the frequency. Okay, so either way, try all these 3 different inputs, you should get the same result. I would say for beginners, you may want to try the first input. Just go ahead, list all the cash flows involved one by one, and that might actually save you from some confusions. Okay, next question we have is to find the effective annual rate in this calculator. Okay, so for example, if we have nominal rate 10%, we compound by monthly compounding, which is 12 times a year. What is the effective rate? If you don't want to go through that long formula I showed in class, you can try apps, finance, find the effective interest rate. So that is function C. Select this one. We have 10% nominal interest rate, comma, 12 times a year, and then you don't even need to close this parenthesis, simply just press enter. 10.47% effective annual interest rate. Okay, the last set of calculation is about amortizations, and for amortization questions we want to calculate the payment first. So if we have a 3-year loan, 10% interest rate, if the present value, which is the principal of the loan, is $150,000, we can go ahead, by the way, switch back to the end mode and compute for the payment. Okay, the payment turns out to be about $60,000 every year. Now you want to put this mode. The note for you guys is actually the last page, last slide, and you want to go to the apps, finance functions. Now go all the way down till you find the balance. If we want to find balance after 2 years, remember this is a 3-year loan, so after 2 years, 2 payments, we have $548.33 left as remaining balance. What if we want to find out of the second payment, which is, remember, $60-something thousand, how much are paid for interest? We go back. Now from the list we select the total interest function, and we go to comma 2. This is actually to find the total amount of interest payment from the second payment to the second payment, which is essentially only the second payment, right? So out of the second payment, which is the $60-something thousand, how much total interest, or say how much is paid toward interest? We find out about $10,000. Okay, so that is using your financial calculator, 83 kind of financial calculator, to do all those essential calculations introduced in this class.